content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.
What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. Straight up. And before I get things kicked off, man, you know, like I always do, I want to give a shout out to the haters. What's cracking with y'all, man? I hope y'all good. I do that before I get started, man, just to let them know, man, you know, have a good day, man. Pass a good evening. Also, man, if you're just now coming into the stream, I would greatly appreciate it if you would help me out with the algorithm by liking the video, man. Subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification button, man. You ain't got to spend a copper red cent to do that. You feel me? Make sure you do that. And, you know, also, I always want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. All the people who helped me pay the bills, you know what I'm saying? So let me take care of that business and get that out of the way. I want to give a shout out to Black Swerve 404, Black Uhuru Strikes, Dr. Thunder, Dr. Tree 33, Rais Muajid, Leroy Honeycutt, Show Me, The Thinker, Broken Blade, and Javon Thompson. Big up. I want to give a shout out to Life of Commerce, Travis King, Supertech, Waffle Weave, Kisses from Afar, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Apex Prowler, Kron S, Anthony Davis, and BGS Ibmore. Big up. I want to give a shout out to Raphael Brown, Professor Carlton Jones, Artisan MC, Damon Brown, Donnell 360, Herbert Lewis, Seven Coast Dojo, Rogish Son, Pulpit 28, and Michael Ross. Big up, man. Want to give a shout out to Charles Rogers, Papa Didas, B. Hillfire, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean 955, Brotherly Love 215, Charles Gilmore 3, Patricia Colley, 7Q Pitt, Kwaku Asasi, Gregory Oliver, and Greg. Big up to y'all. Big up to Barry Little, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Nelso, and Kareen Not Karen. Big up. Big up to Doc LaRock, J. Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Face, Mark Swift, Odd Collard, Donald Watts, HipHop.CATV, Coach DC, and Kashif Caldwell. Big up. Big up to Nichita, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, and Rashid Barnes. Big up, man. Big up to Aaron Smith, DH, C-Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Aaron Infinite, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalanja Kala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, and BK Born Shaheed. Big up. Big up to James Washington, Hostile ADEP, WPR 1, Marvin Battle Jr., and I can't forget my brother in heaven, Force Windu. Big up. And on the Patreon side, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Marchbank Owens, William Joyner, Javon Thompson, Tyrone Hampton, Jules Winfield, Romello Scuggs, Dornell Smith, Excalibur, Jason Warren, Anu 219, Preserve Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Momal, and the Sanguine. Big up to y'all, man. All of y'all, man. Y'all deserve a round of applause. And if you're wondering how you can support the Green Gorilla channel by becoming a member, here's how you do it. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, man, we back. I don't know if you know where you are, but you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. And so, we discuss places, times, and events related to black males' perspectives. And so today, what I wanted to do is take a departure from what I normally talk about and dabble into the world of sci-fi. I've been a sci-fi and a fantasy fan since I was a kid. And, I don't know, man. Sci-fi is a place, fantasy, literature and movies and cartoons and comic books. They're places where boys can work out, the struggle that takes place when moving from youth to adulthood. So you kind of explore themes and ideas related to maturing and becoming a man. That's pretty much how, I take sci-fi and fantasy as a genre. Of course, it's more complex than that because a lot of other themes are discussed and articulated within, the sci-fi and fantasy genre. But, just a young boy seeing heroes come to terms with their duty, their calling. These are the kind of storylines that are, attractive to young men. And so, young black boys are no different than other boys in that regard. I mean, they want to come into manhood. They have visions and ideas about being able to contribute something positive to the world. And so these are genres, sci-fi and fantasy, where, black boys can actually do that and work those kind of issues out within the domain of imagination, So I'm a sci-fi and fantasy fan. And of course, the genres are more complex than that because, especially along the lines of science fiction, you're discussing artificial intelligence, environmental issues and ethics, human beings and how they come to treat each other in times of scarcity, whether it be hastened by some sort of scientific experiment going wrong or whatever the case may be, or, contact with people from other cultures or aliens from other worlds and universes and galaxies and star systems. I mean, these are the kind of, themes explored in the genre of sci-fi. So it's a genre that, I've been a fan of ever since I was a youth, And so Dune is a movie, a story actually, that fits into this paradigm. Let me cut the music off, man, because it's starting to distract me, okay? Of course, as you know, Dune was made a long time ago. So, this most recent adaptation of the movie is, a retelling of a story that's, already been put out there on screen before. Okay. It was made in 1984. And, you know, as a young boy, I saw the movie. I liked it as a kid. Of course, my taste, my palate for art and being able to critique it with any degree of, you know, sophistication, you know, was not very great as a young boy. I mean, now I look at the movie, I just see it as cheesy. The 1984 film, okay? It was directed by some man by the name of David Lynch, and it's based on a novel written in 1965 by Frank Herbert, right? And, the film is set in the distant future, and it chronicles a conflict between noble families, rival noble families. The Harkonnen family and the Atreides family as they battle for control of Arrakis. It's a desert planet, okay? And it's also known as Dune. And the planet is the only source of a drug which is called the spice. And the spice is a hot commodity precisely because it enables you to see the future and it allows for space travel. And it's the only commodity that allows for these phenomena, right? Space travel and pre-science, the ability to see the future. So it's the most valuable commodity in the universe. All right. Now, I have to, admit to you, when I first started watching this movie, okay, I heard the voice of the actress Zendaya, who plays the role of the Fremen rebel girl, Chani. And I must admit, the first thing I thought was, here we go again. I'm to being honest, I thought to myself, here we go again. This is another movie or a TV show in which a role that is, typically or traditionally reserved for a male is now going to be played by a woman so as to inspire women and girls to take the lead. So that's what I first thought when I first started, seeing the movie. Even though when you think of war and you think about battle and conflict, these things are hardly ever carried out by women in a tangible way. But as the politics of today, the woke mob see it, women and girls need to see themselves on screen and in these kind of heroic stories so they don't think that they can't rise up and become leaders themselves. And so, it's a host of movies and TV shows out there where, all you do is you take the female, put her into the slot typically reserved for males, and boom, now you got automatic justice. You're woke now, okay? So I could just name a whole host of these TV shows just off the top of my brain. You got The Foundation, you got Star Trek Discovery, Doctor Who, Black Lightning, Another Life, The 100, Katla, Van Helsing, Lovecraft Country, Warrior Nun. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, where all you do is you insert a female into a role that was traditionally reserved for a male, and voila, you have social justice. The corporations are happy. The women are happy. Everybody's happy because, of the representation, okay? But Dune is different than these other shows. And I think that the reason that it's different is because it was a story that was written in 1965. That's why I think the movie Dune is different than some of these other stories, some of these other television shows. I haven't even discussed movies, but you get the general thrust of what it is that I'm saying, okay? So Dune is different. And another thing, that's different about Dune to me is that it portrays a group of people, or let me just say this. It portrays a group of people who are political dissidents, right, and rebels, who, because they are oppressed, are actually willing to fight and kill for their freedom. Like, and people actually sit in movie theaters and they root for, the small guy or the people who are being oppressed and dominated. You actually get to see them fight. And nobody has any reservations, any qualms about this, because that's what people are expected to do, right? If they exist within a system of injustice, then one could argue morally they're required, politically they're required to fight for their freedom. And strangely enough, man, oddly enough, you even see animals, like in the movie The Planet of the Apes, who are able to do this and people root for them. Like, go apes, go monkeys, go gorillas and orangutans. But, as it pertains to black folks, I mean, this is just off the table, right? This is the funny thing about it. It's nothing worse, man, than to see a crowd of people at a movie cheering for apes and actually being encouraged to fight for freedom, while black people of the world, man, are told that they have to take up a peaceful conversational tack. They have to engage in quiet protest. I don't get it, but that's a sidebar. I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, okay? But I'm here to talk about the movie Dune and why I thought it was significant, all right? And that's just, that's what I want to do, all right? So I got a little graphic. And, it's just a slideshow, nothing fancy, nothing special, just a slideshow of images from the movie, and not a lot of images at that, maybe only 10 or 9 of them, okay? And there will be spoilers in some of what I say here, so if you haven't seen the movie already, you might want to, not watch this stream and then watch the movie and then come back and watch the stream if it's of interest to you, but there'll be some spoilers within this. And also, if you want to, if you're out there in the chat, feel free to join me in this conversation if you would like to. I'm giving, you the green light to do that. And I know that there's some people out there, Artisan MC, who've already talked about or discussed this movie. Okay, but I have my own unique perspective about it. And so, I kind of wanted to discuss it. Okay. And shout out to everybody out there in the chat. And I thought this installment of Dune was a good movie. Just to let you know, I thought it was good, okay? And I'm glad that they broke the movie up into parts. Although, I was kind of disappointed to be left, on a cliffhanger, I still thought the way that they did it was tasteful, okay? But anyway, the first scene that was significant to me was the breakfast scene, okay? Where you have Paul and his mother, just basically eating food, okay? And it's the first scene in which we see the main protagonist of the movie, who is Paul Atreides. And his BendyJesuit mother is basically sitting at this table and is literally training him for warfare while having breakfast. I mean, she's training him to fight. Not in a physical way, but by means of mastering the art of invoking the voice. Okay, anybody who's seen this movie knows what the voice is. It's a telekinetic power that forces others to bend to your will and to do your bidding. Okay? Now, Paul Atreides is a typical teenager, and I'm glad that in this installment of this movie that they actually portray Paul as a teenager as opposed to the 1984 installment of the movie, in which you have a young adult who's playing Paul Atreides. So I think David Lynch, the director and the producer of the earlier Dune, failed because in the novels, Paul Atreides is a teenager. And the story is not supposed to be one where you have a young adult who already knows what his calling is. It's supposed to be about a young man who doesn't know. And we all know how teenagers are. Anybody who's, had a teenager around and you had to, encourage them to do what they're supposed to do, they're going to resist. Okay? Especially a young boy. So his mother is sitting at the table with him having breakfast, and he asked her to give him some water. And she was like, okay, well, if you want the water, make me give it to you. Use the voice. And the first thing that he does is he says, look, man, he tells his mom, come on now, I just woke up. I'm trying to eat. Like, why do I have to go through this? And that's a typical teenage response. Okay? A typical teenage response. And he doesn't want to do it because it takes effort and it takes energy. And he's just trying to chill and eat, okay? But his mother insists. And he does use the voice at this moment, but with little or no effect. But this scene is significant to me, and I'll tell you why. It's because his mother is actually training him to fight and to become a warrior. She wants to see him live up to his full potential and has a strong desire for him to fulfill a messianic prophecy. And I'll talk more about this later. Okay? But then, I compare this to how black boys are reared in the culture in which we live. And I say to myself, how many mothers are training their sons to become warriors and to learn how to fight and to encourage them to fight against the system or a system in which they are oppressed and they're at the bottom of the barrel? How many? How many, black mothers are raising their sons with the view in mind that they are to become future leaders and warriors in support of our tribe? How many women are preparing their sons, black boys, politically, physically, mentally, and spiritually to wage a war or to defend themselves if the need arises? Typically what, happens to us is that we get protected by, being told, be obsequious, be toady, say yes, sir, bow down, don't look as if you're threatening. Those are the kind of protocols that we go through. And the kind of coddling that's done to black boys by their mothers. Right. And even, Paul's mother, who is Lady Jessica, even she does a bit of coddling for Paul. But at least in this scene, we see that there is a mother who wants her son to become a warrior and to learn how to use all of the powers associated with the BendyJesuit order. And I'll talk more about the BendyJesuit order in a quick second. Okay. And I'm not talking about training your son to get a degree or, to start up a business, to, get rich, or like I said before, to, get a degree to work for somebody else. I'm talking about how many black boys are encouraged by their mothers for sovereignty, independence, and black nationalism. I just found this to be startling. I'm like, man, this is a woman in a story, but the story is written by a man. Okay? And so this is probably, in his mind, what a mother should do to try to prepare her son to continue an empire. And I'm saying to myself that, like, this is sadly missing in the black community. That's just my opinion, okay? So I thought that scene was significant because his mother is prepping him to be a leader, not, some sort of orbiter, some pleaser of women. She's teaching him how to, be a fighter. And like, how many of our women are doing that to our sons and our boys? That was just an observation. So that's the first thing I saw. All right. And the next scene that I thought was important, and I can't cover every scene. I can only cover about 4 or 5 of these scenes, right? And I can't reveal every detail because it's a long movie, man. But the second scene that I thought was important was when Paul meets with his father, Leto, on a hill overlooking the ocean. And the discussion is important to me because Paul's father is letting him know that he is the future of the house of Atreides, right? And he also lets him know that leadership is not something that everyone is cut out for. It's not for everybody. So those who want to be leaders, who desire, who in their hearts want to be leaders, they typically don't have what it takes to be good ones. And the reason why is because they're usually just thirsting for power or for honor. They want the honor associated with being a leader, but they're not really willing to actually do what it takes to be a good one. They just want power and honor again, right? But those who don't want to lead, but have the ability or the best ones suited for the job, and duty is what forces those who are worthy to actually step up into the role. So if you got people who, they want to be leaders because, well, people like them haven't been leaders before and, we're missing and I want a seat at the table. That's not the quality of a good leader. A leader steps into the position because they're called to do so. And they do so reluctantly because they'd rather be doing something else. They'd rather be doing something totally different. But they have to do it because they're the only ones who can actually do it with the best of intentions and who have the best capacities. Okay? Now, what makes Paul worthy? I think what makes Paul worthy is, and there was a scene directly before the scene that Paul has with his father on this hill overlooking the ocean, and they're on their original home world planet or whatever the case may be. And but the scene prior to that one is one where Paul meets up with I think it's Duncan, Idaho, and he explains that he wants to go on this pre-mission to the planet Arrakis because he has a vision in which he sees Duncan, Idaho killed by Imperial soldiers. And he wants to go there so he can protect his friend and keep him out of danger. That to me is a noble reason, right, for wanting to actually be involved in a conflict or wanting to be around in a leadership capacity because you want to protect your friends from danger. So anyway, he's worthy because he wants to go to Arrakis before the House of Atreides is settled there, and he wants to protect his friend, his mentor, because Duncan, Idaho is his mentor, okay? And now we know that actually there's no way for Paul to protect Duncan at his current skill level. But the fact that he wants to be at the front lines demonstrates that his heart is in the right place, and he's not a coward. Now, compare this figure of Paul Atreides to that of the person, Joaquin Phoenix, who played the role of Commodus in the movie Gladiator. I don't know if you remember that, but in the movie Gladiator, Commodus comes after Maximus already has a fight and wins the fight. So all of the risk associated with battle is already done. And then Commodus shows up afterwards with a parade of people. Like and even Commodus's father realizes that, like, this is some bullshit. That's some cowardly shit. The fight is already over. But now you want to come in and act like a victor and have like a ticker tape parade. Dude, you just walked in at the tail end of a battle. You don't get glory like that. You don't get honor like that. So anyway, all of these factors go in for the most part, and they kind of demonstrate that Paul is actually worthy of leadership. Right? But in the end, what they do in this scene, him and his father, they have a father-son moment where Leto, who is the Duke before, he gets killed, he lets Paul know that he's satisfied with him just for being his son. And if Paul would decide to take up another vocation and follow another set of dreams, then that would actually be okay. Now, of course, this is kind of tongue-in-cheek because it wouldn't be okay. But what's important about the scene to me is the unconditional love that's being demonstrated from father to son. And that's important because what it does is it gives Paul the space to make his own decisions on how to choose his destiny free from force, right? And moral obligation. Now, again, you got to be free to choose. You can't be forced into this position, especially if you're going to be a good leader. And so I thought that was like very significant, right? And in reaction to the story, the scene is important because it is at this point that Leto lets Paul know what his political strategy on Arrakis actually is going to be. Now, his goal is not to go to Arrakis to get rich like the Harkonnens and to oppress the native inhabitants, the Fremen, to try to squeeze more production out or to try to, not deal with them consistently raiding and trying to stymie their efforts to gather and collect spice for the emperor, right? His goal is to form an alliance with the Fremen, the original inhabitants of the planet, and to free them from Harkonnen brutality. So, he tells his son, okay, what we have here on our home world is air and sea power. We have naval power and we have aircraft. We have air power. When we go to Arrakis, what we have to cultivate and develop is desert power. And he thinks that the only means by which to do this is to form an alliance with the Fremen. So at any rate, this is an important scene to me because it basically solidifies in Paul's mind what his actual goal is when he gets there and goes through a series of traumas and misfortunes, right? And if you saw the movie, you actually know what's going to end up happening anyway. The Harkonnens and the Emperor are going to try the best that they can to, cause catastrophe and turmoil as they try to collect spice. And so they're going to use spies and, everything that they can in order to create subterfuge so that he can't fulfill his duties to the Emperor. And so they can come in and basically, destroy the House of Atreides. Because that was the goal from the beginning for the Emperor, to create tension between the House of Harkonnen and the House of Atreides. And the House of Atreides was getting too big and was beginning to rival the Emperor's power. So this was a way for, him to knock the House of Atreides down a notch. That was the goal, okay? So anyway, I just thought that was a good scene. The father, the son bond, not demanding that the son do anything, but expecting that the son do what duty requires, not by force, but by gentle persuasion. I just thought that was a good scene and it was significant. All right. And the next scene that I thought was important was the scene in which Paul is training with the general of the House of Atreides, Gurney Halleck. Now, usually Paul trains with Duncan Idaho, but because Duncan's been deployed to Arrakis to form an alliance with the Fremen, Gurney stands in as a replacement. Now, one of the most important things about Paul in this movie is that he's constantly being prepared for leadership and for the ability to protect himself in combat. He's constantly being prepared to fight. But like a typical teenager, he doesn't like all of the training. And of course, why would he like it? He sees himself as relatively safe. He's on his own home world. He really isn't all that aware of political danger and intrigue. These are things that he has to be taught. So he's just chilling, like a typical teenager would, I mean, today, like a typical teenager would be playing a video game, watching television, messing around with their phone. And then all of a sudden you come in and you ask him to do something as strenuous as to fight you. And you're a general, right? So he's probably like, man, I'm just trying to chill. He was training on his own before Gurney Halleck came in the room, but it's like, it's a whole nother dimension of intensity when you have to spar with somebody else. And so he's like, man, I'm not really feeling this today. But what Gurney Halleck tells him is, look, and this is one of the most powerful lines in the movie to me, because what Gurney tells him is, look, man, you fight when the necessity arises, no matter the mood. Not when you feel like it. You fight because you gotta fight. And that's an important comment. That was an important, line in that movie. We know you're comfortable. We know you're the heir apparent to the House of Atreides, but you don't know how much danger we're in. We just basically signed on to take over Arrakis. This is one of the most dangerous places in the universe. And the commodity there is the most precious commodity in the universe. And we're about to walk into a place where we don't know what's going to happen. Okay? And, Paul is taking it light. He's like, no, don't take it light. So it's good, I think, that, Paul is being prepared in this way because this training is going to be handy for Paul later on. Especially during the end of the movie. Like, at the end of the movie, Paul has to fight to the death. And if he hadn't undergone that rigorous training, he would have died. He wouldn't have been able to rise up to the challenge at the end of the movie, like the end of part one of this movie. Okay, and so that's just dope to me, But how many young boys in our communities are like trained on how to defend themselves, like boxing, wrestling, how to use knives, even how to use guns? Who's training us on how to protect ourselves if the necessity would ever arise? Most of us, the only training we get of a martial kind is if we go to the military. That's if we go to the military. We never are trained how to defend ourselves. And one can argue, given the context of the historical circumstances that we've gone through in this culture, we should know how to protect ourselves. That's what the Black Panthers was all about. Like, how do we protect ourselves if we're being treated unjustly? And that just seems to be something that nobody even cares about anymore. It's like, okay, well, if we need protection, we just gonna call the police. Like, really? That's what we doing now. Our form of protection is the state. How aloof can we be? I'm just saying, how mentally naive and politically naive can we be when the primary source of our protection is a source that we know who has worked to keep us suppressed politically? That's just, that's just my viewpoint, okay? You can think what you want to think. You can chime in, leave a comment, or whatever the case may be. All I know is it's a vast difference between the ways that Black people are trained politically, spiritually, physically, we're just trained different as it pertains to how to operate in the environment. It's almost as if we're taught to just be toady and obsequious. Like there is no goal other than to get a job and work for somebody else or to play sports or something like that. So if we do train, if our mothers let us do, because I know a lot of moms out there, they won't even let their sons play football or wrestle because they feel like their kids they might get hurt. I don't want my son to get hurt. Like, are you serious? The world out there can hurt them. So you better turn them into an efficient tool for defense. That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do with your male children. But what happens when that never happens at all? You don't encourage them to become what they can and potentially grow into. You turn them into drones. You turn them into orbiters and simps. That's what you turn them into. But how can you? I mean, one can argue if you have any desire to be on top politically or socially, how do you train your sons? This is like just the vast difference in culture and in ideology on how to actually, train your kids, your male children. It's not about, going to school and learning everything that your master's going to teach you. There has to be something also taught in the home. That has nothing to do with books in and of itself, but that has to do with a disposition, a certain kind of orientation. And then the question is like, what kind of orientation politically are we teaching our sons? Like, what are we teaching them? 9 times out of 10, we're not teaching them anything other than what you see in popular culture. That's it. Popular culture is teaching the kids. Or they got to get whatever political information they can from inspirational stories that you see on the screen like Dune, which is absurd. But that's just, those are just my thoughts on that, okay? Now, another scene that was important to me in this movie, and it stood out to me, was their arrival on Arrakis. Okay, so some things transpire in the movie. You know the gaps. You can fill them in yourself because you probably already saw it. But when Paul first arises on Arrakis with his family, he is greeted by scores of natives shouting out, Lisan al-Gaib, Lisan al-Gaib. And Paul asks his mother, like, what does this mean? What is it that these people are screaming or shouting and pointing at us about? And his mother tells him, Lady Jessica, that it's a Fremen term for an off-world prophet or a messiah. And the term literally means the voice from the outer world. And is outlined in Fremen messianic legends, which are heavily influenced by this order of priestesses called the BendyJesuit, right? And Paul basically tells his mother that the natives using this term, which is basically the Messiah, or the voice from the outer world, it basically signifies that the BendyJesuit have been, on this planet engaged in a campaign of propaganda. They've been planting superstitions to the native population on Arrakis. And Paul takes issue with this. Because he likes to be square with people, not deal in superstition. But see, this is what the BendyJesuit do. They deal in superstition. But anyway, so Jessica, his mother, Lady Jessica, basically tells him that the BendyJesuit order of priestesses have been preparing the Fremen for the arrival of the Messiah, the one, for centuries. And when they see Paul, they see signs that he might actually be the one to fulfill the prophecy, which is really actually not a prophecy as much as it is the political machinations of the order of Bene Gesserit priestesses. And to me, the dopest exchange between Paul and his mother in this scene is when he tells her that the Fremen have been seeing what they've been told to see. Meaning that the Bene Gesserit haven't really actually prepared them to be autonomous agents for their own change. They've been basically propagandized through superstition to accept him or anyone else coming later as a leader, and to him that's like witchcraft. That's not honorable. And it basically, as far as I'm concerned, it foreshadows Paul's rejection in being a pawn in the Bene Gesserit's political and religious schemes. He's like, I don't want to be a part of that. If I'm going to have an appeal to the Fremen, it's going to be on square terms. It's going to be on straight up and down terms. I'm not playing political, religious, superstitious games with these folks. I want to come directly to them. And I thought that was dope, right? And, his mother is a member of the Bene Gesserit order. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a second. But I just think it was dope, man, that Paul already, as a young teenage boy, he's basically saying, I refuse to be a pawn and to be manipulated and controlled by the women of the Bene Gesserit. I will do as I see fit and not be servile to their order. So I just thought that was dope. And this sets the stage for the next scene because, the Bene Gesserit, they're an order of women who have an immense amount of power. So you have the Bene Gesserits, you have the houses and the various dukes who control the houses, and then you have the emperor. And of course, you got the guild travelers or whatever you want to call them. You have the mentats, and there's another group of people. I can't recall them right now, but I mean, these are all immensely powerful people, right? And the Bene Gesserit, they have certain powers, and I'll explain that in a second. So anyway, the next scene is really important, is where you have a Reverend Mother, and you can see it on the scene, on the screen right now, who basically subjects Paul to a test. And his mother is the one that basically sets him up for this test, right? To determine if he's actually worthy of continuing to live. And what's significant about the scene to me is this, for one, his mother is basically subjecting him to a test in which he could actually die. Like if he doesn't, basically live and, pass this test and undergo this ordeal, it's a wrap. Your son is dead. It's over. It's a wrap. So the question is, how many contemporary women of any culture are willing to put their son in harm's way in order to fulfill a test to become a man? Or are they willing to coddle their kids? Just, to pamper them and to keep them out of harm's way. Who would subject your son to this? In my viewpoint, thank you, Roger Report. I appreciate that. Roger Report says you are invited to participate on a special show on my channel Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Central Time with other special invited guests if you make it. I appreciate what you do. Appreciate you, my brother Roger. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for the donation. And, I can't help but gloss over at what Scott Haywood has said underneath, because ultimately, the Bene Gesserit, let me explain to you. Well, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag anyway, but anyway, look, let me just explain it the way I want to, and then I'll get to what the Bene Gesserit are all about, right? So Paul walks into this room. He doesn't know what the fuck he's walking into, right? I mean, he's about to undergo a test. And he doesn't even know what the fuck is happening. His mom does, but he doesn't know. Okay? And this BendyJesuit Reverend Mother uses the voice to make Paul break down to his knees. Literally. I mean, forces him to break down on his knees. And Paul is pissed at this because he perceives it as an affront to his rank and station as heir to the house of Atreides to be put on his knees by anybody. But the priestess, this Reverend Mother, informs Paul, look, no one is coming to save you or to interfere because your mother has put you in this predicament. She has approved of this procedure we're about to go through. And then she commands Paul to put his hand in a box that's going to administer pain. And the minute that Paul puts his hand into the box, she puts a needle right next to his neck, a poisonous needle or pin, right? And she tells him, if you move your hand from this box while this test is being conducted, I'm going to prick you with this pin and you will be dead within seconds. It's a wrap. It's over with. Now imagine to have to undergo some shit like that. Like you came, you don't know where you're going or why you're going there. And then all of a sudden you're thrust into a position to where you have to take a test. And if you fail it, you're dead. So anyway, I mean, of course, all of this is allegorical and figurative as far as I'm concerned. So the test is significant because it demonstrates Paul's ability to endure pain above and beyond that of the women in the BendyJesuit order. Because later we find out, after he goes through the test and passes it, that like the woman took him to she took him to the max. Now she probably wouldn't have done this with another woman. She gave him the maximum amount of pain that you could give anybody going through this test. Okay? So basically, like this woman now knows this guy here, he could be the one that we've been trying to like play this religious game with people from other cultures about, like the prophecy. He could actually have or harness what we've been trying to bring to fruition for centuries. Okay? So of course, let me get a little bit more into what the BendyJesuit are. I'm not trying to go deep down into the lore, but I got to go somewhat into the lore. So the BendyJesuit is an exclusive sisterhood whose members basically train their bodies and minds through years of physical and mental conditioning to obtain superhuman powers and abilities that seem magical. Now, the members of this exclusive sisterhood, right, who have acquired the breadth of BendyJesuit abilities are called Reverend Mothers. So they're like kung fu masters or some shit like that, right? If you're a Reverend Mother, if you possess the breadth, the range of skills that are possible within the context of the order. So if the plan was to test Paul's animality and his impulsivity, the Reverend Mother is the one who actually turned around and got tested. Because the scene basically foreshadows that Paul has more psychic potential than all of the most powerful women in the BendyJesuit order. And so this begs the question, is Paul Atreides what the BendyJesuit, or have the potential for what the BendyJesuit have been working on for centuries? Some figure called the Kwisatz Haderach, okay? Now, what's the Kwisatz Haderach, okay? Now, this term is basically a term created by these BendyJesuit priestesses, or, you can call them witches if you want to. It originated from their prescient power, their ability to predict the future, right? And to venture into a specific region of metaphysical knowledge, right? And this region basically is unattainable to females. I mean, they have their abilities. I mean, they're pre-signed to a limit or to a degree. And I'll explain why. So, the spice allowed the BendyJesuit to unlock epigenetic memory, okay? But only on their maternal side. Now, all of this is it's just sci-fi anyway, right? But they can only access the genetic memory on their maternal side, the X chromosome side. But males, because they possess an X and a Y chromosome, can see more. Now, their order has been, basically made exclusive to women. But they know that this figure that they got, the Kwisatz Haderach, is going to have to be male. The Kwisatz Haderach, this messianic figure, is going to be capable of accessing the genetic memory stored within both chromosomes. Now, while those memories were inaccessible to the BendyJesuit priestesses, memories from male ancestors are still accessible to females with access to genetic memory. But due to the lack of the Y chromosomes, these memories are going to be incomplete. In order to access the full paternal memories, you're gonna have to be a male, okay? You're gonna have to be in possession of the X and the Y chromosomes, right? And being able to access this full range of memories is something that the BendyJesuit are terrified of. They're scared of this shit. Like they're like shaking in their boots about this. And you know that they're going to be shaking in their boots about it related to a male whom they have no direct control over. This is like the most important part of this piece. So the BendyJesuit want this knowledge. They want it. They want to have access to it, but they can't. So what they have to do is to have this long genetic breeding program, and it's going to yield a male with these powers, which are capable of bridging space and time. But he's going to be under the direct control of the sisterhood. This person's going to be able to predict the future. And this is why you see all of these visions that Paul is having, right? He's going to be able to see the future. Precisely. So he's going to have the powers of Reverend Mothers, Mentats, and these people called Guild Navigators. He's going to have all of these powers wrapped up into one. Now, none of them want him to have these powers without being under their control or being under their thumb. Now, what's dope about, Frank Herbert's depiction to me of the BendyJesuit and what's significant about it is the way the women of the order wield their power. This is what's dope about it, right? So they do so through superstition and through mind games, not by means of direct force. So as far as I'm concerned, like in my view, Frank Herbert uses the women of the order as an allegory for how women actually wield power. They don't control things by force or by guns or by blades, but they control things by means of political persuasion or by power of persuasion and through psychological manipulation. That's what's one of the dope things about this, right? Women control, like even now, all you got to do is look and see what kind of political power women wield, and it's not by means of force, physical force. They have people to do that for them. They get men to do that for them. They do it through persuasion psychic persuasion, or controlling narratives, or creating frameworks. That's where their political power comes from, okay? So that's just a significant scene. And I think, exactly, Kareem, soft power skills on point. And women act like they don't possess these skills, or they don't have this power of persuasion. But that's one of the ways that they keep their power of persuasion, by acting as if they don't actually have the power of persuasion, which is some bullshit. Men have to be like mindful of this. And the dope thing is that like Paul is aware of this early on in his childhood, and he already is obstinate as it pertains to dealing with, this kind of power. Because you can't be an effective leader if you are psychically manipulated by anybody, men or women. So anyway, another thing that, another scene to me that was important was the scene, like, which I call the assembly, right? Like all of the advisors and all the people come into a room, right? And they talk politics about what they should do, what they shouldn't do. They meet with various other leaders and shit like that, right? So Paul's father, Leto, like he basically encourages him to be in on all of these meetings. And while Paul is at these meetings, he's able to speak freely and to offer his opinion about political matters every step of the way. And I thought that was significant, because how many young black boys are capable of giving, offering, or providing their opinion about anything at any stage of their young development? I'll wait for that. I'll be waiting forever for that. I'm just being honest. That's one I'll be waiting forever about. Because you're not going to see it. Typically, you're not going to see it. So, I mean, my question is, how many black teenagers are given the green light to do such a thing in the black community today without being accused of promoting patriarchy or some other such bullshit? How many? And, the funny thing about it is, young boys are the ones who drive political energy, in case you didn't know. It's always young males who do it. It's always, I don't know, I haven't even watched what Tiger, he says, where's Artisan MC? He can join in if he wants to. I didn't watch it, okay? I didn't watch what BGS and them had to say about it. I just did this on my own, I didn't see what anybody had to say about it thus far. I just felt that I would weigh in on it on my own terms. But I mean, a long time ago, well, in the late 60s, there was a report called the Kerner Report. I don't know if you ever heard of the Kerner Report. It was written around about 1967. And it was commissioned by Lyndon Baines Johnson. And because there was a lot of political unrest and rioting and all of this going on in the late 60s, right? And so, like, the Kerner Report basically, like, they assessed what the causes were structurally, systemically. And this is what they said. The typical rioter was a teenager. Not a grown-ass person, okay? A teenager or a young adult. A lifelong resident of the city in which he rioted. Now notice the gender here. A high school dropout. He was nevertheless somewhat better educated than his non-rioting Negro neighbors. And he was usually underemployed or employed in a menial job. He was proud of his race, extremely hostile to both whites and middle-class Negroes, although informed about politics, highly distrustful of the political system. These are white people writing, telling you like who they think the political threat actually fucking is. Not high value men, high value niggas and shit like that. Not that. Not black women on welfare who got fucking jobs. Teenagers, young adults, black males who were high school dropouts, but who were more politically educated than their non-rioting counterparts. You see this shit, look, this shit just kills me, dude. Like, in the movies, you see motherfuckers tearing shit up and everybody's like, yeah, tear shit up, rebel, fight. Even like, why you got white people in movie theaters cheering monkeys on and shit. But they tell you, be quiet, don't offend anyone's sensibilities and shit like that. I swear to God, man, this is like the weirdest shit in the world, bro. It's just weird, man. Weird. Weird. So again, like notice who in this government report the assessors deem is politically aware and informed. Not middle-class Negroes, not black lesbian feminists, but black male high school dropouts. These are your Pookies and your fucking Ray Rays. Did you keep talking about embarrassing the shit out of you? But I digress, man. I digress. Yeah, man, support the Green Gorilla channel, folks, man. Make a donation, man. Hit me up on the Super Chat or hit me up on the Cash App, man. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Heat. Appreciate that plug. Another part of the movie that was significant to me was when his mother and Paul were captured. When Paul and his mother were captured. When Paul and his mother were captured by the Harkonnens, and they were on a plane, okay? So they basically get captured by the Baron's troops, and they're both tied off or tied down in an aircraft. But Lady Jessica is gagged. She has a gag over her mouth, so she can't use the BendyJesuit voice. But Paul, who is not gagged, is kind of like looking to his mother, and he's about to try to use the voice, which they practice, right? Thank you, Shabazz. Appreciate that Cash App. Yeah, make the Cash App sing, man. Thank you, Shabazz. Appreciate that donation. Appreciate it. So Paul basically is like ready to use the voice. They've been rehearsing this and going over this for quite a bit of time. But his mother gets scared and shit. Like, you're not ready. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like, no, like I can imagine like Chappelle, like, no, don't do it. Don't use it. She signals to him through sign language because they have a way of communicating through sign language. No, you're not ready. But Paul says, fuck it, I'm going to use it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway, okay? Now, it doesn't work. And he gets smacked in the mouth, but he uses it anyway. This to me is also significant because, a mother is not going to allow a son to risk his life and limb. Typically. Now, she's already done this, but she dithers back and forth between trying to keep her son safe and then, trying to help him fulfill a prophecy. Like, which one is it? But I think this is the genius of the play or of the story is that, like they oscillate. They want their sons to be strong, but they want to protect them at the same time. This is why, boys sometimes, like, they really don't become men until they find the means by which to be able to overcome the persuasion of their mothers. I'll say it again. You really aren't able to be a man without being able to break the chain of the persuasion of your mother and to understand where her persuasion is coming from. She wants to protect you from harm. But like even in nature, mother birds will flick their fucking sons, them boy birds from the nest, like, you get your ass out there and fly. But they prepare them to fly though. They don't just throw them to the wolves, which is stupid. Anybody who wants to see their genetic line persist. And this is the shit that confuses me about some people, like in the black community who hate black men and shit. Like, that's your fucking genetic memory. That's your that's your future that you shitting on. Who does such stupid shit? Who would think, okay, I want my community to be filled with a bunch of weak ass motherfuckers who would just, grab around the ankles of whoever is in power at the time? Who fucking desires that? And the difference is, you got an order of women who at least, they want to be able to control the male Kwisatz Haderach, the person who has the full range of psychic or telekinetic powers. At least they understand the need for this person to exist. Thank you, Kashif. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. At least they understand that this entity, this individual needs to exist. But at the same time, they still have the abortive mind frame, the BendyJesuit order. Because, see, they're commanded to only give birth to women or girls. So to me, this is like almost like feminism in 1965. This guy's almost prescient in his own way, this Frank Herbert guy. So anyway, Paul's like, fuck it. Whatever my mother's talking about, fuck what she talking about. I'm going to use the voice anyway. Doesn't work. Paul gets smacked in the mouth. But then they make eye contact again. And she signals to him to find the right pitch. Find the right pitch. So then she gets into tutor mode again, right? His mother does, Lady Jessica. Paul takes a deep breath, closes his eyes, concentrates, finds the right pitch, and manages to get his mother ungagged. And from then on in, because she has way more time and training, she's able to use the voice to kill the captives and to secure their escape. But the scene is significant. Why? It's significant in that if Paul would have done as his mother had initially suggested, they both would have been dead. Because if she doesn't get ungagged, they all fucking die. They're dead, okay? They're dead. So, at least he's like, man, we gotta try. We gotta do something here. We can't just sit here. No, you're not ready. Well, what the fuck do you want me to do? Sit here and die? Because that's what's about to happen. Okay? So Paul respects his mother, but he is also willing to take risks and to step into his own manhood on his own terms. That's another significant thing about this movie. It's significant. And then also, when they finally escape, they're wandering around in the desert, and Paul begins to have visions again because the spice is something that triggers prescience within the members of the BendyJesuit order. And because like Paul is born to a BendyJesuit priestess, he has the same powers as a BendyJesuit woman does. All along the lines of the X chromosomes. But what's happening is he's beginning to be able to tap into what is able or available to him along the lines of the Y chromosome. He's beginning to be able to predict the future. And so basically he curses his mother out in the tent. Like when they're caught up in the desert, he says, he doesn't say fuck you, but he for the most part does say, you turned me into a freak. He may as well have told his mother, fuck you. I hate you. You turned me into a freak. It's what he tells his mother. I mean, eventually they embrace one another. But I mean, Paul is pissed out. He's pissed off about this. Because these things are happening to him, and he hasn't been able to make a decision about how they're actually happening to him. Things are taking place above his purview, and this pisses him off. But, you know, this brings me to the last scene that of the movie that I think is really significant and important, right? So it's the last scene, right? The fight scene where Paul basically fights Jamis. And, I don't know what, Jamis is all butthurt about. But boy, he damn sure doesn't want Paul to be a part of their party, does he? I mean, he's like, I will not have them. And I forget the leader of the band of Fremen, who they were traveling with, but the unique thing is, I mean, the guy's telling them, "Be still, Jamis, be still." I mean, prior to that, I mean, they basically attacked Paul. The Fremen attacked Paul and his mother. But they, don't know that these motherfuckers are combat ready. They don't understand that. They just don't know. Like, these people have been training for war all of their lives, really. Okay? And, of course, Lady Jessica is a BendyJesuit priestess. None of those Fremen could actually have basically taken her in a battle, especially if she decided to use the voice. All she had to do was use the voice. She didn't. But all she had to do was use it, and any man, she could have basically used the voice to 2 or 3 of them, and they would have killed each other. Okay? And so basically Jamis is all butthurt, and whatever the case may be, after the event happens where they try to accost Paul and the Lady Jessica, and they're not able to. So Jamis is like, well, I don't want them to roll with us. They're not riding with us. I, invoke the Amtal. And basically that's like a fight to the death. But he can't fight Lady Jessica because that's against the rules. You can't fight a woman for control. So you're going to have to take a champion for her because she's the new leader effectively, I guess, because she defeated the strongest person in the clan. So Paul steps up, accepts the challenge. And, this Jamis guy just doesn't know. Like, Paul's been training with the best warriors in the universe. He's been training with the best of the best. Duncan Idaho, Gurney Halleck. He's been training for shit like this his whole life. All right, now he's never killed anybody, but I mean, he's been training to protect himself in case he does get killed. Now, the funny thing about this battle, though, is, Paul is still not ready to kill. But in order to become like who he actually has to evolve into being, he's going to have to kill somebody. And it's unfortunate. And look, this is the demarcation line to me also. It's significant because, black people ain't supposed to kill nobody. For no reason ever. Not to prove that they're a leader, not to fight against the enemy, nobody. Never ever. I mean, you ain't even supposed to defend you. If somebody following you, you ain't even supposed to beat them or punch them. Like the little boy with the Skittles, you know what I'm talking about. You ain't even supposed to defend yourself to the point of death. You supposed to, tread lightly, be obsequious and toady, or whatever the case may be. I mean, even Moses killed motherfuckers. Like I'm saying, like if you want political freedom, you have to be willing to engage death, embrace it, of other people. When have you ever heard your mother tell you, kill this motherfucker? Have you ever heard it? I'm just saying, monkeys can kill in movies and engage in war. Aliens can do the shit. Girls can do it. Everybody can engage in war. And this brings me to what Sonny Touré is going to say. And this is where I was going next. After he wins the battle with Jamis, which he didn't want to kill. Clearly, he didn't want to kill that dude. Clearly, he had no desire in murdering. No desire whatsoever. But when he does, they become part of that particular clan, okay? They become part of that particular clan. They earn their right to be part of that particular clan. But his mother still is seeking safety. She still wants to protect herself and her son. And this is the point where Paul basically says, fuck this, man. Like, no. You want to escape and go to an off-world, but I'm here to fulfill my father's political objectives and moral objectives on this planet. We were sent here by the emperor, not to get rich. My father and I had a discussion about this. We came here not to get rich, but to strengthen the power of the native inhabitants of this planet. And so I'm going to stay here and go into the desert. This is where my future is. So he tells his mother, no. No, we're not leaving like that. Now you can go if that's what you desire to do. You can burn out. But I'm not leaving because this is where my work is. I'm not here to try to be persuasive and try to be some godlike figure, but like I have to do what I have to do. I'm going to be who I am, but I'm not here to do some sort of psyops on these people. I'm here to be, an actual encouragement and a help for them. And his mother, seeing the emergence of her young son blossom into a man by going through manly rituals now, yields and follows his lead. Now, my question to y'all is, would you ever see such a thing in the black community? Like ever? Ever? Would you ever see any such thing in the black community at all? It would be considered insolence. Telling your mother no? And not doing as she says, not fulfilling her wishes? It's tantamount to sacrilege. And they invoke it. I'm your mother. I'm your mommy. I'm your mother. Okay, motherfucker. Like, I stopped breastfeeding when I was fucking 3 years old, 2 years old. I don't have to breastfeed no more. The gestation period is over. You'll always have an influence, but for crying out loud. And this is segueing into my next thing. Like, nothing wrong with honoring your mother. Nothing at all. Nothing. But as you grow into an adult and you grow into a man, you can't be directed. You can be advised by your mother. But if you become a leader, like this dude has been groomed to be a leader. How can you be a leader if you're doing what your mommy tell you to do? He says Pressy is not pre-science. My bad. I stand corrected. Sorry. But at the end of the day, we don't have these kind of stories. I mean, the closest thing we get is like the coming of age boys in the hood story or some shit like that. The baby boy story or something like that. Well, the mother's not really teaching them how to be a fucking warrior. It's just teaching them, get out of my house so I can fuck. Because I want me a man. I want to, you getting in the way of my sex or some shit like that. That's a difference qualitatively. I don't know, man. You can sound off, man. You can come join me. I'm going to take a quick break. If nobody joins me or has anything to say about this or anything to add, because I probably missed a whole lot. Some of you may disagree with some of what I said or whatever the case may be. All I'm trying to do is just give you my opinion on it. I was wrong about Dune because I thought it was going to be one of them stories where you just fill in a female into the male role and then, everybody's political ambitions get placated or their desires get placated and the woke people they're happy, everybody's happy or whatever the case may be because the least advantaged groups get pushed to the pedestal. But it's a story in which a young man is being groomed for leadership. I mean, he's being groomed for leadership and you see him grow into a young man. You just don't see shit like this in our stories, man. Like, I mean, you might see the slave rebel scene or something like that, but that's it. It's over. Artisan, what's good with you, bro?
What's up, GG?
What's going on, man? I wanted to tap into, I thought about tapping you on the shoulder before doing this to ask you if you would do it with me, but I didn't know how to contact you behind the scenes.
Oh man, artisan1112@gmail.
Okay, let me leave that. Put that in the back. Put that in the back chat for me somewhere.
I'll put it in the back. I'll put it in the back chat. So I would have jumped on earlier, but I'm helping a coworker with a tankless water heater right now, and it's giving us a little bit of a problem. So,
oh man!
But man. I heard people being unfair to you in the chat, and I just wanted to jump on and say I like your review of it. That's why I like getting other people with different backgrounds and different knowledge on topics to go in and look at it because they describe it completely different than I do because I'm a geek foremost. I don't have a PhD behind my name. You do. So you studied a lot more things than I have. where you would see a lot more in this movie than I would see. And that's why I always, want to pull in those voices that see something I don't see. That's like, being a good pool player. You got to see the table from all directions, not just your vantage point, but all the way around it. And that's what I'm doing. So I appreciate you doing the review on it because it pointed out some things to me that I wasn't getting. I'm sitting here laughing like, that's right, GG. I'm clapping it up like, damn, he owned it.
But yeah, I don't see everything. Nobody can see everything. That's why you got more than one set of eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
That's why you got spies. I mean, if you're doing political work or whatever, even if you got a think tank, you got a consortium of people who are thinking about things. Some of them agree, some of them disagree. So you might say something that might invoke a different line of inquiry or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it's like collective intelligence,
Right.
But, all I can do is just... Yeah, go ahead, bro.
No, I'm sorry. It's your show. I'm over.
No. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but that's the whole point of science in general, right? Somebody may have a theory or idea of what they think is going on, but when you get together in your think tanks, like you're saying, and everybody else start looking at the information, they come up with something different because they got a different background, they got a different field of study, and they might just see it completely differently than you. So they can bring more to the table that helps you refine your vision of what you thought was going on by having a different perspective. So it actually helps you more than it hurts you.
Right.
So
but
I'll let up on GG.
But the best thing about the film to me was that you saw a young boy being groomed to be a leader and being groomed to actually be a fighter and what actual political fights look like. Yeah. Not this shit that we do, in our community. Like, this is why, I look at black nationalism now. It's like, I hate to say it's a joke, but it's a fucking joke. And the reason it's a joke is because we're not training young men to be fighters at all. Like, and it starts with men and women dedicated to that task. It's not just men dedicated to the task, isolated, apart, and away from women. It never happens that way. Like, your mother has to have just as much a dog in the fight as your father, as your uncle, as the other male mentors around you.
Right. And I agree. That's what I was enjoying about you coming on this topic, because I'm still going back through the book again on audiobook form, right? So I was listening to it when you went live. So that's why I went ahead and jumped on. And I'm at the part where I'm sitting here thinking in my head, I said, where do we do this in the black community? Because I'm thinking about how to keep furthering this conversation with people, being interested in this material. And you hit right on it. It's like, do we train people this way in the black community? And the answer is hell no. Because
not at all.
Most mothers is not letting their son do anything dangerous, and it's not even about them caring. It's just because they don't want to have to do what Jessica had to do in this movie, which is let her son take the lead. He told her, like, no, we ain't fucking leaving. We staying.
And that's the
Our
rub.
road leads this way.
And that's the rub. See, nobody wants to give over the power. And I mean, look, and not to say women aren't valuable in what they do. Like, they have important work to perform if they're going to be political dissidents, right? I mean, they do. But the education, the will to fight has to be instilled everywhere. From feminine energy to masculine energy, it has to be everywhere. It has to permeate every area.
I agree.
Of the culture in which you're reared in. But if you have a mother who's basically like, and this is the issue, like, okay, so this is where black nationalism went downhill. Okay, the BendyJesuits took over.
Yep, they want to play the
BendyJesuits of the black community took over, and it's it's figurative. It's not literal. Like, it's figurative in that women have psychic powers over populaces. They use the art of persuasion in order to get their way in political machination. That's what they do. Even socially, that's what women do. They have pecking orders and they use subtle, mind games in order to gain, like precedence in the pecking order. That's what they do. It's not always about overt violence for them. Okay.
No, and that's the whole
But
thing with the Benny Gesserit. That's the whole thing because they don't even get into fully in this movie. They breeding programs that they selectively breed motherfuckers, just for that reason because they trying to have something that they can control.
Right.
They don't necessarily care about the houses. They want to see society move in the way that they want it to move, and they're going to do that by manipulating these bloodlines and stuff like that with these different families, and keeping all these Benny Gesserit sisters in the dark about who their actual parentage is when they could be mating with their cousin. They could be mating with somebody, from their family. All this bullshit. So yeah, it's pretty deep.
But don't sleep on the Benny Gesserit. They play an important role, but at least to see, and this is what that's why Duke Leto chose Jessica. And that's right, because Jessica
was a rebel.
She was a rebel, man. And she knew, first of all, she had pure motives though. It wasn't like she was like, I'm trying to have the Kwisatz Haderach, in order to fucking run shit. It's that I love my son. And I want him to grow into what he's capable of growing into.
Right.
And the question...
go ahead. No, I was just going to say the thing with Jessica was, I said she was a rebel is because she went against her own religion and her order to give a son to her Duke because she loved him. And that's kind of the part they left out of the movie. They just said, yeah, she went against him, went against the Benny Gesserits, but they didn't say why. She went against him because the Duke wanted a son. And she loved the Duke, so she was like, fuck it, I'm giving him a son. Forget what they say.
Right.
I'm on board. I'm on his schedule, on his plan.
Right.
And that's why they was pissed at her.
Right. And they were definitely pissed, because they, it was a radical move because they don't have control. They never had control over his upbringing. Now, see, what they wanted to do was to have her have a daughter, and eventually that daughter was going to be reproduced with Fade, which I have yet to see in the context of this Dune installment. You know what I'm saying? Fade Harkonnen, which was played by Sting in the '84 version, or the
plastic tuba.
Yeah. So basically, Fade and her daughter, that's what the Benny Gesserit had in mind. But shit, she had a son. So it's a wrap. Yep. Now look, was the movie to me like titillating? Like, it wasn't titillating to me. It was okay. I thought visually it was great. And because I was already connected to the lore of the movie to some degree because of my previous my previous fandom with it from the outset. Right. It was a cheesy movie, man, the '84 one. This is, less cheesy, but it is slow moving. It's slow moving. Okay.
It's a slow build. It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn. And that's why I think most people are pissed off, because it's slow and there's not enough explosions at the end to keep them interested, because that's it? It's over? Yeah. Catch the next movie.
Yeah, but I mean, the movie is not about fighting anyway, as much as it is about these other things that are being worked out. To me, it's a perfect example of feminism, allegorically, and about, the strength of mononuclear family, above and beyond that of what's happening outside of the political domain, right? And whether that is going to uphold destiny, or is the destiny going to be controlled from externally, with the state, which is represented by the emperor. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot going on, man. It's a lot going on in this movie, or the story of Dune in general. But it just is what it is, man. So if you want to, man, we can talk about sci-fi more often. You know what I'm saying? Anybody, I'll be where you are if you want me to, or you can come where I am. I'm thinking about doing it more often. Just have one day of the week where I talk about something in sci-fi.
Just hit me in the back chat, because I usually come up with wild ideas for shows that people I want on, and I apologize that I didn't know that you was into sci-fi that deeply. I would have called you for yesterday.
Man, call me,
You
bro.
know,
You know.
okay, so now I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Call me, man. You know, just hit me up. So you let me make sure that I got your email again. Let me write it down so I got it.
Yeah, let me just put it in the back chat. Give me 1 second. I'm cutting something, so I can't use
No,
my
just tell
hand.
me so you ain't got to do all that.
Okay, Artisan.
Okay.
I want no weirdos. Don't nobody else in the chat room. Don't fucking email me because
Well, no, just leave it in the back chat. Leave it in the back chat.
yeah,
Or just
I don't
email
want
me.
no.
I mean, because you know I'm at G with a PhD at gmail.com. So, you know, just email
Yeah, I
me
got you.
or either
Here we go. I got you.
yeah.
There you go.
So
There you
yeah,
go. I
thank
got
you,
you.
bro. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you inviting me up. But I'm gonna let you get going. I'm gonna finish this up so I can get out of here. But you did a good job. I like your review of it. So I
Appreciate it,
look
brother.
forward to
Appreciate it.
hearing more from the GG about the sci-fi stuff. That'd be interesting to me because you're a
For
smart
sure.
brother. So I appreciate that.
For
So I'm
sure,
gonna get
man.
out of here right now and let you finish your show, and I'm gonna finish this up and be good with you.
All right, man. Take care, man. Good luck with your project. Peace.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace. So anyway, man, you know, I'm back. You know, I knew that this, you know, was off the beaten path for me. I typically don't talk about sci-fi, whatever the case may be, but you know, I just had to, I had to speak on this. It's just that I saw this young boy maturing and growing into a man and being groomed to be a leader, and I thought to myself, like, where are any of us being given anything similar in terms of tutelage? Like, this is what is necessary if black nationalism were ever to be a success. This is the type of shit. This is the type of shit that has to take place. But ain't none of it taking place. Nothing even remotely similar in kind. So it is what it is, bro. So anyway, man, I'll holler at y'all later, bro. Till the next time. One. I was just about to leave, man, and then you got 300 GT from 3000 GT from Atlanta that wants to say something, man. Talk to me, man. I was just about to be off, bro. Rap to me.
All right, man. But thanks for having me, man. But my main thing was that I mean, I was there listening to Artisan. You know, he brought it up, but that last kill that Paul made, I guess, and you mentioned his name. I think his name was Jonas or something when he killed that black guy.
Right.
Okay. Now doing his visions and whatnot. You saw Jonas, you know, speaking like to Paul, like he was going to show him the way of the desert, show him the power of the sand and everything like that. So immediately I connected with the black guy. Hey, that's our Morpheus. That's our John the Baptist. Okay, if Paul's going to be the Messiah, then okay, who's going to be his John the Baptist? You know, who's going to be his Morpheus? You know, to his Neo.
Right.
And so when he finally appeared on the scene, I was like, well, there he is, you know, because I like seeing, you know, black characters, black faces, you know, in that role, you know, because they're not gonna put us in the Messiah role, so I guess, you know, we'll be John the Baptist, you know, we'll be his Morpheus, but it didn't turn out that way. The dude got killed, you know, he acted kind of wild and everything like that, and it was like a kick, you know, it's like a punch in the gut.
Yeah, it was a punch in the gut to me too. But you know, I just had to be mindful of the fact. First of all, it's a white world, man. It's white entertainment anyway. You know, I mean,
Right.
but the thing that I thought, you know, in my head was like, what do white boys get in relation to the kind of tutelage that they receive to be leaders? I mean, especially, you know, predating, you know, the emergence of second and third wave feminism. Like, what was a young white boy trained to do in order to become a political leader? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, even you got to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to shit like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a white savior movie any fucking way.
Well, if you compare that to Black Panther, right? I understand what you're saying. When it comes for the black man to take that kill, to do, that rite of passage or whatnot. No, we're not allowed to kill. We're not allowed. We always got to be the bigger person and be like, you did some dirt, but I'm going to be the bigger person and walk away. We're not allowed to get that justice.
Right. And so BJS, man, you need to
ahead.
come in, man. You know, you're on the sideline too much, man. But I mean, you know, yeah, so BGS says that actually Paul is John the Baptist because he's the precursor to what's to come after. You know what I'm saying? Because his son, his son is the God Emperor or some shit like that. You know, I haven't read all of the books, but eventually there's somebody who's more powerful in terms of the prescient, as brother techno pirate.
All right.
Kind of educated me on how to pronounce the word, but he's he has more more robust powers than even than Paul does. But I mean, but at the end of the day, I looked at it like, okay, yes, it was a blow because I thought the man was going to be his trainer as well. But eventually, who's going to end up training him on the ways is this woman, this girl, Chani. She's going to be the one and she doesn't have belief in him. I mean, it's typical female behavior. I don't think you're the one. I don't think you could do this. I don't think you this. I don't think you that. And Paul doesn't even Paul doesn't care. Like, Paul really didn't want to do anything that he's doing. He's forced into doing this shit. Like, either die or live. You understand what I'm saying? But in order to rise up, there's a certain series of tasks that he has to accomplish or things that he has to perform. But was I disappointed, man, by the brother with the blue eyes, man, with the nappy dreads getting killed? Yeah, I was. But the thing that also tripped me out was, why is he so adamant about Paul not being part of this group? Like, why? Because you already know if Paul's visions have any, relevance to what the truth is, this guy like cares about the Fremen and he cares about the political cause. But I mean, I guess he has to be a martyr and die in order for Paul to actually move into the role, that's slated for him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it was a blow. Just pictorially, it looked fucked up.
Right.
Right. Why the black dude got to be the one to die? Why not take somebody else and let him die? Glad you can come in, BG, man. What's up?
What's going
Hey, BG don't stand for baby gangster either, man. It stands for Black Gnostics Supreme, man. What's happening, bro?
What's going on, man?
Nothing to it but to do it, man. I was about to be about this thing, and 3,000, basically chimed in. I said, let me go ahead and
I was just typing in that actually Paul is John the Baptist, but the thing is, you have to read the books to understand what I'm talking about, because he's opening the way for somebody else.
Right, and that's his son. Am I wrong?
Leto II is his son.
Yeah, the God Emperor. And so
the God Emperor is supposed to lead them on the golden path. And so he's, in fact, if you read the Dune Messiah, he that's why Paul banishes himself to the desert, just like John the Baptist did, out into the wilderness.
Right. So, yeah, but I just thought the movie was important to cover because it just shows the difference in political orientation
Right.
between white and black folks when
Right.
it comes to boys.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
When it comes to ADOS Americans, because it's not the same way when you go onto the continent. Yeah.
and dude, that video you put out earlier today, man, that shit was like, it was gold, bro. I
Which
was
one?
like, oh man, the
What?
video about the elephants
Oh yeah,
and the
yeah, yeah.
black fathers being
Yeah, the Black
present.
Father. Yeah, yeah. That I thought that. When I saw it, I said, "Oh, I thought about the elephants and in the presence of a masculine energy." And I said, I thought those two things went together.
And that's what's missing in the black community. We don't have any honor or respect for the male principle, the masculine principle.
Right.
And they say that, this is because of the patriarchy of the past, but that's just bullshit, man. Like, I really don't know what to say about black folks, man, at this point, man. Like, I just feel like,
They black folks are. Well, Monahan said it. They have been damaged. Black folks are damaged people, and they've never allowed what's supposed to be a group to congeal and come together. They've never allowed it. It's always somebody's fingers in the pie and screwing it up. So black folks have never congealed into its own, their own thing. I don't think they're ever supposed to. So that's probably the funny irony, like Morpheus says. Uh, Seems like destiny has its own. It's not without irony, right? Black folks were never supposed to come together to be a people anyway,
true
and really,
indeed.
for the most part, they never really are. Whereas this amalgamation that has never congealed into a whole.
Yeah, but I thought that video was important. And the difference though between Paul's upbringing and the kind of upbringing that a lot of black boys get is that he had tons and tons and tons of male mentorship.
Right.
Everywhere around him,
Yeah.
there were men encouraging him, being, role models for him, teaching him how to fight, teaching him how to, to think when men are around or how to behave when men are around. And he had women who are also
Yeah.
encouraging him.
That's why Duke Leto doesn't get enough credit, because if you've read the book, you read the beginning of the book. Duke Leto was actually orchestrating all of his training. That's like when he picked BendyJesuit to have a child by, because he wanted to make a certain kind of guy. He wanted Paul to be the culmination of all these important thought patterns. Like it was like taking a Gigi in philosophy, taking him through all the schools of philosophy on the way up, right? And
Right.
that's what Leto did. Leto made him a mentat, sent him through mentat training, combat training. He trained to decide to be a duke. He got BendyJesuit training. So all this important training he got was actually orchestrated by his father. That's why Leto actually picked Jessica, because she was a BendyJesuit.
Right. Right. And ultimately, he wanted him to be a power player in the universe.
In the
Right.
universe. Yeah.
And, it's just like, I just think about it like, what are we as men, young boys being trained,
Yes.
black boys, what are we being trained to be? And you can't train us to be powerful because then that would be feeding into the patriarchy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Which black boys are trained to serve black women. And I said that on a panel, I think last night, when I should have had my behind in bed. Black boys are trained to serve black women, even in sex. If you think about what's important to us, um, you can hear us all. It's always in reference or in service to the black women, and they know it. How we have sex, how we dress, how we talk, our swag, how we walk. Everything is in service to black women.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to, change that paradigm. I mean, if it is the case that we actually want something more than what we actually got.
Right.
Like, I think this one thing Keeping 100 was right about, even though we disagreed on some things on the show. Like, it's like you can't What black feminism did was it basically said we're going to align ourselves with the state. Because the only way you could work, you could bring about civil rights justice is by making an appeal to the state and corporations to be included. The government includes you and the corporations include you.
Yeah.
But you can't resist against the powers that be if you have formed an alliance with the state and with the corporations.
Is this is this Booker T. Washington and the Atlanta Compromise just in modern form?
I think so.
Okay.
Because Booker T, I mean, a lot of people go off on Booker T and say, he was conservative or say that, he didn't look at the bigger picture. But I mean, the whole point is if you can't control your own resources, if you can't build up your own industry, what power do you ever have? Or even, do you strive for? And this is, this tension between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, right? And, the civil rights movement who wanted all this inclusion and all this integration.
Yeah.
And, Booker T was like, look, we can integrate, but we got to do so on our own terms.
Well, you can't. I mean, you can't because there was, basically Booker T was following the Southern strategy. In fact, because I've heard other Southern Southern people talk about the Civil War, say the same thing. Okay, which is economic integration, right? And the reason that pure economic integration wasn't going to work is because you had economic integration in Greensboro, in Rosewood, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You had economic integration where black people are actually integrated, hardworking, successful, doing their own thing. But without the social integration, the social protection, guess what happened? They burned those cities down.
This is true.
So in fact, you need both.
You do need both.
Yeah.
But we've forgotten the other component. Like after, it's like black people took a big sigh of relief after the civil rights movement and decided to disavow.
Actually, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but you're the expert here. In my opinion, that was the women and the liberals actually pushing away what Moynihan said, because Moynihan wanted to actually financially integrate black men into the society, not just socially but also financially. That was the financial piece, right? As you saw about, the Kerner Commission was the financial piece. Okay, and black women allowed, the black, like you say, black boys burned down 100 cities. Okay, so the Kerner Commission was said, okay, we need to educate these guys, we need to give them jobs, we need to integrate them into the economics of the society, right? Which is what the Equal Opportunity Act, which is we called it then, or affirmative action, is supposed to be. Integrate your black males into the society so they're not a danger anymore, right? And basically, the women allowed white women in feminism to take that economic integration away. So basically, for the most part, you got some of the social side, which is what the women wanted, but you got very little of the economic side that you're supposed to get. You didn't, like I said, you got 7 cents on the dollar, for all the work that you did as far as economically, for 30 years of civil rights. In my opinion.
Now, Green Gorilla,
go.
the guy that did The Birth of a Nation, the black guy that did The New Birth of a Nation, right?
Right.
He did another movie about a year ago. I can't remember the name of it. Basically about a cop killing his son.
Yeah.
And he goes with his boys. They're ex-military. They get the arms and whatnot. They crash the police station and everything like that. They have their own verdict and jury. But just, just to reflect on a type of movie that Green Gorilla was talking about, where we come up, we take that arms. There's been a wrong, and we come to face it. But that's the only type of movie that really comes to mind with some black faces.
But you know, the odd thing about it is, if you look at the history of the civil rights movement, it was successful in part because you had the deacons of defense ready to shoot if things really got out of hand in some instances. Like, I mean, were there situations in which the deacons of defense were not there, and then black folks were accosted by like police and stuff like that, or state troopers? Yes, that did happen. But there were several instances in which you had men present with guns, right? Yeah. Where violence didn't pop off because there was the threat of counter violence popping off. And this always gets lost in these new social movements, like these newfangled social movements that like are devoid of historical nuance and don't deal with the realities of history.
Yeah,
you'd
never have civil rights if those black soldiers that came back from World War II that saved America's ass didn't go to Washington D.C. until Eisenhower. Damn it, we laid our asses on the line. We shed blood for this country. We demand our due.
This is
That
true,
started in
man.
1945. You would not have the civil rights movement if it wasn't for that. If those soldiers that fought and died, for this country, whether they liked it or not, okay, came back and said, we demand our due.
But the funny thing about it is, though, we have records, documents, reports, prescribed by commissions and everything that details how to solve these issues and these problems.
Yeah.
And I think that you are right. You said it. I've said it. White women just basically hijacked the civil rights movement, man, and they took all the resources for themselves.
If the black women hadn't assisted them, and that's something that black women need to come to grips with themselves, right? If they hadn't assisted them in this, it probably never could have been pulled off. But it is what it is.
That's Jason Whitlock right there. And you put that out there. You was the first one to put it out there. Licked their finger, put it in there, found out what way the wind was blowing, and said, "To hell with these dudes. We got to get what's good for ourselves."
For ourselves. Yep.
But then the question though is, what's good for your sons? What's good for the nation as a whole? That's philosophy 101, man. It starts with Plato. Like, it ain't just about what's good for the individual citizen. It's about what's good for the entirety of the group. And if you're only looking at like one dimension of justice, which I think these people are like myopic, like they only see the world in terms of black and white, even though they claim to be, operating on a spectrum or whatever the case may be. I think that they see the world in terms of good and bad.
Yeah. It's funny. You see walkouts by black women over a comedy special over trans, but you don't see not one of them go walk out or protest because only 10% of the black boys can read a reading level. It just blows my mind. It just that's why I might just throw up my hands.
Man, crazy, bro. It's that's because we're not politically educated, and but we should be. I mean, especially this is why. Even in that the Kerner report, they disclosed who the most intelligent people were politically in relation to like what the reality on the ground is. Not middle class Negroes, not educated Negroes. They pose no threat to the system. They are part of the system. It's like the Hunger Games. They exist in the capital city. They're filled with sickness, just like everybody else is. They're part of the system. They're anti-revolutionary. They can't bring justice to fruition. And I don't know, bro. I look at this shit and I think to myself, man, if the women don't get on board, and this is what the black nationalists in the early 70s, late 60s understood, like you gotta have black nationalist women.
Yes.
But black nationalist women can't have their interests connected to the state.
Yes.
They can't be calling the police.
Yeah.
They can't be fucking calling corporations. And even like today, David Chappelle put out a statement, I think, at a comedy show. He was like, damn, it's to the point right now where I'm trying to put out a documentary and no major distributor wants to take it on because of all of this controversy surrounding the trans, movement. But these people are part of the establishment. Like, and I said it a long time ago, like not a long time ago, but at least recently I've said it.
Yeah,
that
you say it all the time. I mean, you every show has the same thread in it, Gigi. You say it all the time. So it's
yeah,
just but if it's drifting water, man, it's eventually actually going to penetrate the stone. People don't know exactly how important the work that you're doing here and the stuff that you're revealing uh, is. Okay, because it's starting to crack the stone. It really is.
well, I'm glad to be here to do it, man. Sometimes I duck out and
Hmm.
hide for a second. It's just hard
Yeah.
for me to stay motivated sometimes because I feel like I'm not really actually penetrating stone sometimes, and I hate to be the dead horse, and I hate to be redundant. But
Hmm.
redundancy is the precondition of
Hmm. Yeah.
memory. You
Yeah.
gotta be redundant.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We're gonna have to chop it up because I got to go help my grandson with his homework. But one thing before I go, man. Uh, I don't know if you get time, man. Explain to me Rousseau's "The Rights of Men" because that's what set off socialism and a lot of stuff that forward about universal, basically universal suffragism that men got, and I basically uh, women, white women wanted the same thing that Rousseau was actually proposing for the common man. So, if according to what I'm reading, so. If
yeah,
you
okay, I definitely
if you I'm sure you well you know it. What I'm saying is if you get time, man, it doesn't have to be this week, but whenever you have a spot, man, do a little something on Rousseau and the Rights of Men, and I'll drop you a little something.
for sure, dog. I definitely will do that, my brother. I'll do that, man.
Yeah,
Give me
because
a,
you
give me a week or so though, because I want to make sure that I hit the buttons that you want me to hit.
oh yeah,
So
well yeah, because I'm coming at it cold, so any buttons you hit, just something but buttons I haven't tapped.
for sure, I'll
So
definitely do that,
yeah,
man.
but it's a yeah, but you're because I started reading Dune when I first saw it in my high school library, man, back when I was like 16. So this is years and years and years ago, and you're spot on. You're spot on. But the only thing that the slight disagreement I have is that even though he's the Messiah in the series, he's basically John the Baptist, and he's
Right,
opening the way for
the
the guy
golden
that
path.
the golden path, which is something he didn't really want to sacrifice himself to do in that way, which his son did.
Yeah, he chose love or some bullshit like that. I think he
Yeah, he chose banishment to the desert rather than taking on the golden path because he didn't want to. He really wasn't groomed to do what was necessary, which his son had no problem doing. Okay, if we gotta uh, do this by force after not be human anymore, then this is what was necessary. So that's what he opened the path for his son. That was the
indeed
only disagreement I had. But the thing is, that would be giving away the books, and probably that's probably a spoiler. It's like I did it in the chat.
for sure. So I'll definitely get to Rousseau's theory on natural rights,
Hmm.
and he's a social contract thinker, and so you know I know the tradition from Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau
Yeah,
pretty good. Yeah, so
yeah.
and if
Think
there's
about it.
any tangential document that you want me to peruse, so where you're getting information to connect the dots, just send it to me in an email, and I'll tell you
Yeah,
what I think about it.
yeah. I
Because
was actually I was actually listening to Will Durant's parts of his the story of philosophy, and he was going through Rousseau and a few others, right? And then I was actually going through his book, the beginning of his book, the story of civilization about Napoleon, and they talked about um, the French Revolution was actually ignited by Rousseau's The Rights of Men and his theories, and that's what basically caused the French to rebel, and the French Revolution actually was actually the progenitor of what we call socialism, feminism, all these isms that we have. That's the seed of where it started, in my opinion.
I think you're right about that. And you know, the only way I can say it is, man, this is why I also wanted to do a show on conservatism versus and like really where it comes from, and this, you know, because contemporarily, I mean, we all want to preserve this radical tradition of you know, liberalism, which really conservatism to me really actually is social philosophical liberalism. That's what the fuck it is to me. Okay, to some degree. Right? Like if you look at the conservatives now, all they talk about is natural rights. You know, the same thing that classical philosophers, not classical philosophers, but classical economics theorists and the liberal philosophers of the modern era talk about. Right? But you know, people like Edmund Burke, they were appalled at the French Revolution because they knew, okay, if you raise everything from the ground up and start brand new, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So what are you going to change? Like, you don't know what is going to be the result of your tinkering and tampering with these traditions. We know the traditions lead to stability. Even though it might, you know, lead to oppression, maybe we can fix that, you know. But if you feel like you can just raise the entire building and build one fresh from the ground up, you don't know how long that building is going to last. You just tore everything. You raised the entire tradition of our culture and obliterated it. Like, what is going to emerge in the, you know, after what you've done? And so, you know, these people are still trying to tinker and tamper with institutions. And, you know, the question is, you know, like what long lasting effect this is going to have on the society in which you live. And like we see right now, like if you have to suspend reality in order to make people feel good, man, we are in fucking trouble, bro.
Yeah, we are in Wonderland right now, man, and at this we're at a nexus right now, and you know, we think that our leaders know exactly what direction they're going, and they don't. And that's the scary part. People, they do. It's when they don't know is when it gets scary.
At the current moment, what we have is a group of people who are using the moral force of the civil rights movement, and the corporate interests have aligned with these people because it costs them nothing to actually appear to be woke, right? And to grandstand by servicing these so-called minority groups within minority groups. And so basically this is counterinsurgency, man, 101. Like how do you stall and all the while this is occurring, the financialization of the economy is still there. You know, cannibal capitalism is still there. And nobody is even focused on any of these issues anymore. Like it's not even part of the national conversation. No, and this is the shit that fucks me up. Like it's not even part of the conversation at all.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Bruh, all you got to do is make some gay people feel happy, and so fuck economics. You know, like I mean, you know, seriously, like this is the way it's going. Make some gay motherfuckers feel happy, and give them a movie role or something, and let them, you know, have some TV shows and act like, you know, they're offended, and that's what justice requires.
And then it causes a splinter group. You know, you start splintering up people into isolated individuals, which is which the people at the top want. If you're isolated, one thing that what the French Revolution did is brought the people at the bottom together. Well, for good or ill, it brought, you know, all these revolutions brought the people at the bottom together, and that's what the people at the top fear. If you can keep them isolated and keep them thinking individually, then they're powerless.
It's called balkanization, bro.
Balkanization, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, Gigi, I gotta jump up and get out here. And when are you gonna be on tomorrow or when?
I'll probably be on tomorrow. I don't know what I'm talking about tomorrow, but I'll find something to talk about. You know, I've been gone too long, so it's time for me to get my feet wet again.
Yeah, I know how it is, man. This is a grind, so I know how it is.
All right, my brother. Thanks for dropping by, man. I'll holler at you later.
All right, man. I'll holler at you tomorrow.
Peace.
Peace.
So anyway, man, this, you know, we really gone this time. I'm about to end this shit. So I'll holler at y'all on the next go round, man. Peace and love. Air grease. One.